of training. And there were numerous times during it where I was saying, wow, I mean, maybe I want to just like run for the fence or something
Yeah.
and leave. But I mean, I didn't, and those didn't last long. But I progressively, over that short amount of time, changed. It was a radical change, Steve, in my psyche, in my confidence level, in my feelings about. All right. Well, good day, Steve.
Hey, Steve.
How are you?
Doing good. Doing good.
Excellent. Well, folks, welcome to the Steve and Steve Show. In the midst, we try to make these things kind of timeless so that they can be, you can watch them anytime that you're out there and you don't really know exactly when we did them. But the truth of the matter is, right now, we're in the midst of this terrible virus around the world, and we're virtual. I know, it looks like we're not, but
Well,
I cannot poke Steve in the eye, no, because we're virtual.
what's interesting, Steve, is that we are sitting on the correct side of if we were together in the normal kitchen.
We are, because there's the window somewhere over there, and
Yeah.
it's behind your head. Okay, that's great.
I think we think too much into how to do this.
Well, the kitchen looks similar. That's nice.
Yeah,
That's really nice.
and if folks notice, if I can get my finger to work here, we got your book in the background too.
No, we're supposed to not be showing that because they're supposed to like find it. It's kind of like there was this thing back in the 90s, this program. I don't know if you ever remember it, called Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? It was a cool little game that played virtual. At that time, it was like one of the first like computer games for discovery stuff. And so that's what that book should be, is Where in the World is the Trading on the House book?
Ah, interesting. In the scouting magazine, there's this donkey-looking character, and his name was Pedro the Scout. And that was one of the games, is to find Pedro in the magazine.
All right. Cool. Well, there you go. It's either the book or Pedro. Hey, so we don't know how long we're going to be doing this virtually like this. You'll probably be able to tell by the length of my hair, because I can't cut it. My great barbershop, Daddy-O's in Loveland, I can't go to it anymore. So my hair is just going to get longer and longer. I won't trust it to my wife cutting it. So here's to long hair and virtual. By the way, tonight, this is a Jameson whiskey from my birthday. It comes in and out. Sometimes it just looks like I have nothing in my hand, but I do.
That's very cool. So
what are we going to talk about today, Steve?
All right, so today's topic is ceremonies.
Ceremonies.
Yep, ceremonies.
And okay, what do you mean by that?
So ceremonies around success principles and success methodologies.
Okay.
So when think about the different things that you've gone through your life and you've had accomplishments, and at the different accomplishments, it's kind of the ceremonies helps capstone that that phase of your life, or it can set a new beginning. So it's kind of a phase of changing seasons or changing things. But the actual ceremony itself helps your mind, right? It helps with the subconscious. So an example, like if somebody graduates from high school, they go through a graduation ceremony. If they graduate from really any type of course, they get that sense of accomplishment. And then on the other side, you have new beginnings. So I think marriage there's usually a ceremony for a lot of folks around marriage, or at least some formal process that you go through. So that signifies a beginning of something, right? But what that does is it subconsciously programs that event in your mind. So
does it mark a crossword roads of sorts?
What do you mean by the crossroads?
I mean, like you've come to a fork in the road, and not a crossroads, more of a fork in the road, and now you're going to go in a new direction. Does it mark something like that psychologically?
Yeah. So, well, what it does is it gives you that extra sense of confidence, right? And so, like for me, I went through college twice, and we'll get into a different discussion of why I did decide to go twice. But I actually went and got my MBA, and I wasn't gonna do the walk MBA because I felt like that was a personal thing, right? It's like I went through the courses, learned the courses, and completed, but I did a little bit on the virtual side. I did some online and some in like a Saturday thing. But it was just my thing. So I was gonna not go through the walking ceremony of graduating at my MBA. But my wife talked me into it, and I'm glad she did, because what that did is that planted a memory in my mind of actually physically walking that thing and crossing that stage. Subconsciously, my mind said, wow, you did it, you're done, you have a master's.
Okay.
Right. So now, and maybe you've heard of the imposter syndrome.
I have heard of that.
So a lot of people
explain it for our.
Yeah. So the imposter syndrome is when
I'm going to be an imposter while you're doing that and drink this little bit of whiskey.
Well, I think our backgrounds are kind of like that imposter syndrome.
That's true too.
So
right now I'm acting like I'm a Western cowboy.
Yeah. So the imposter syndrome is when someone takes on a job or a title, and subconsciously or even consciously, they don't feel like they are up to par on that level, right? So they feel like they're impersonating somebody that should really be in that. So they don't feel like they're worthy, or that they have the right knowledge or skill sets to be performing that job.
And does that affect them and create an insecurity where they actually manifest a poorer job production as well?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So when you go through a ceremony like that, there's a subconscious lock that says, "Hey, you did earn this." Right.
It's a marker.
Exactly. So that's kind of the concept of ceremony, or the concept of why ceremonies is important to your success, even though you may think it's just another. I don't need to be on spotlight. It's just for me. It's my thing. No one else needs to know about what I just accomplished. It's not a big deal. Well, those ceremonies really set in a subconscious marker, like you said. Accomplishment. It gives you the title that goes along with that accomplishment. So maybe you have something. You're in the military. The military is very much on to ceremonies like change commands, different events there, right? So do you have something?
Well, so I do. Mine. It's interesting because you bring up college. I went to college as well. Went to the University of Colorado, and I studied English. Before that, I had studied theater. And when I finished my degree, I was like, big deal, the piece of paper, and go up there. And I mean, at that time there were, I don't know, 30,000 people in the English department, and in the arts and sciences department there might have been 8,000 or something. And the last thing, frankly, I wanted to do was spend, I don't know how many hours that would have been, 8 hours or something like that, waiting to go through, and then to walk up there, shake his hand, and get that degree. Because I mean, I'll be honest, I was a little bit perturbed about the amount of money I spent there, and about the education that I got. Look, in the end, it was a good education. But while I was there, in retrospect, I look back on it and see it was incredibly one-sided, the education, and it was, and that's sad. So when I reflect back on that,
yeah,
ironically, that's not a marker for me. It isn't fine. I got the degree, and I'll often say, yeah, I was an English major, blah blah blah. But a much bigger marker, believe it or not, was basic training in the Army, in the United States military. And I mean, when I reflect back on it and the emotion of, even though that was a little over 2 months, it was 2 pretty intense months of training. And there were numerous times during it where I was saying, wow, I mean, maybe I want to just like run for the fence or something. and leave. But I mean, I didn't, and those didn't last long. But I progressively, over that short amount of time, changed. It was a radical change, Steve, in my psyche, in my confidence level, in my feelings about my country, for example, because I went in probably a little less patriotic than when I came out. And still to this day, I feel the patriotism that I did learn from that. So the marker from that basic training is, if I weigh those two, even though college was 5 years, basic training was far stronger of a sense of ceremony. Like you said, the ceremony didn't last long. It was very formal, as you can imagine, because our company wasn't huge, but it was incredibly powerful. I can feel it and see it right now. And when I think back, I certainly talk about that more than I even imagine talking about the ceremony that would have been of me graduating, college. And so, and I don't have any regrets either about not going up and taking that. And I'm not making a comment about somebody who does do it, because I think it's wonderful. My children have done that, and I was there. But I'll just say that those 2 months, 2.5 months or whatever in basic training, that ceremony, that getting out of there was really a proud moment.
Yeah. So one of the things you mentioned that,
cheers to the United States Army.
Cheers to the Army. Thank you. Thank you for all those that are serving and have served, right?
Thank you for your support.
You mentioned, you watched some of your kids go through that, right? So that's another thing that, like, in the scouting organization, we do ceremonies. When you cross over from Cub Scouts to Boy Scouts, we have that marker saying, okay, now you're a Boy Scout, so you got to act a bit more mature, and you can't be leaning on mom and dad now. This is you,
right?
And then you get Eagle, and so. But one of the things that I try to push on these kids when they're getting their Eagle is it's not so much. Certainly, the ceremony of getting Eagle Scout is about them accomplishing a major accomplishment as a teenager, right? But the other piece of it is to show that somebody did make it to Eagle to the new scouts. They're just coming in, right? So it's that enticement of like, and you see it, maybe you've seen it at some company events, right? Network marketing companies have the big one where they'll have big events and somebody makes it to their top rank or whatever like that, and they have big ceremonies, they award them. Well, a lot of that is to motivate the people that are behind them in those progress, say, wow, if they can do it, I can do it. And that's kind of what scouting organization does that. And I wasn't in the military, but I was in ROTC for a little bit, and there certainly was a little bit of that.
No, that's absolutely true. Yeah. And I can see that on the scout side of things, where, I mean, let's face it, making Eagle is, I think we said, like 1% of all the scouts?
4%. Yeah.
4% of all the scouts that make Eagle. So it's a huge accomplishment. And to your point, that becomes a marker for somebody that is aspiring to it. It's an aspirational marker for them.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
so for example, in business as well, or in whatever you're doing in your job or in your life, those kinds of things that you have, you should probably celebrate those ceremonies, right? Celebrate them in your own mind, but also tell some stories about them, would you say?
Yeah. Well, you have to take time to celebrate, right? And that sometimes those celebrations so maybe it's not a formal ceremony, but it's the celebration, right? So we do celebrations around birthdays and anniversaries. So a lot, sometimes if your anniversary is a big enough anniversary, you'll have a ceremony, like renewal, whatever. But a lot of times it's just that celebration that marks a specific milestone and puts that in set.
Yeah, and you just made me think of a recent celebration. My mother and father celebrated their 60th wedding anniversary.
Wow.
So talk about an aspirational marker for all of the people that were present there, but certainly the extended family that was present there, and the children looking up to, wow, 60 years. So yeah, I can see that.
That's good. They must have got married in elementary school.
They were actually 13 and 12. I'm kidding. That's not true, Mom.
Well, we'll find we'll find out if they're watching your videos when they come up and tell you.
Oh dear. No, seriously. I know you were both of a great age. There was nothing crazy there at all. So it's the whiskey.
It's the whiskey. So all right, Steve. That's the topic I wanted to discuss about ceremonies.
Great topic.
That it is important, not only for yourself or who's going through that subconsciously for a success. It gives you a good marker and confidence. It helps eliminate that imposter syndrome, but it also is a good marker for others to encourage them that if someone's done it before them, they can do it as well.
So then what does our audience need to do in terms of, you need to go out and spend a little bit of time looking for those ceremonies in their own lives?
That's a good suggestion. Yeah, that's a good suggestion. It's more of awareness, right? And looking for that, but also that maybe we're coming. It's April, and I hope we get out of this stay-at-home safe situation soon enough, so that those that should be graduating in May and in June have an opportunity to go through their ceremonies and take it on. It is an important event. Right.
Okay, excellent. Well, I guess everybody needs to know, of course, you got to subscribe, please. Well, most of you have already subscribed. Of course, we are growing. We're growing. We need to grow quicker, faster, bigger. Everybody's locked in their houses, so tell your friends and family and acquaintances and people across the world about the Steve and Steve Show.
Right. Yeah, we appreciate the shares too. So, okay, Steve, let's see if we can get our glasses to hit each other. I think I got to go this way.
Do I go that way? No, you're going that way. So there.
No, you got to go the other way.
No, I think I'm going the right way. You're going away from.
Oh, I see what you're doing. You're going in the middle.
No, you got it. So look at the window and go away from the window, and you'll be going towards me.
It doesn't work. I think we're both on the wrong side of the screen.
Cling.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great one. Thanks for watching.